Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast Five by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast Five, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still keep it to 5 minutes, of course, but we're going to pick out the biggest story of the week, the sleeper story, which is one that's flying under the radar a little, the most remarkable story, and our favourite story. So jump straight into the biggest story of the week. Let's go.
For me, it was economics. We realised in hard data that the economy is slowing and inflation still isn't under control, and that's pretty scary. The building sector's in a slump, with approvals for new dwellings down 24% compared to a year ago. Annual inflation in the 12 months to the end of April hit 6.8%. That's higher than what it was. We had the boss of Wesfarmers, Rob Scott, saying the glory days of government largesse, low interest rates and good times for companies is over. He's called it the big squeeze. It's looking very, very suspect for the economy. Higher inflation, a slowing economy, and probably interest rate rises next week. Not good news.
Yeah, not good news at all. Sean, my biggest story is actually a bit of a mix of stories that all came out of politics this week. Senate estimates, we had Reserve Bank Governor Phil Lowe giving some insight into his thinking on inflation. He warned the rental market's going to get even tougher. We had Tax Commissioner Chris Jordan at estimates as well. Everyone was kind of getting stuck into PwC over the crisis that has engulfed that company. We had the first piece of legislation required for the Voice to Parliament referendum passing the lower house this week. Trade Minister Don Farrell threatening to go back to the World Trade Organization if China doesn't lift its sanctions entirely on Bali. The Prime Minister is traveling around the world having kind of meetings about defence and trade. And then we had Mark McGowan, the most popular state premier in the country, quit this week, declaring he is done and heading off before the signs of his exhaustion start to show. Big week in politics.
Sure was. Michael, what was the most remarkable story? I think there's only one this week.
Yeah, look, it was the biggest defamation trial, I think, in Australian history, the undoing of a Victoria Cross recipient, because the facts are just extraordinary here. 110 days in court, 41 witnesses, $25 million in legal fees. And at the end of it all, the frankly disturbing realisation, as found by Justice Anthony Besanko, that Victoria Cross recipient Ben Robert-Smith was involved in the unlawful killing of unarmed Afghan prisoners. Justice Besanko ruled that The Age, the Sydney Morning Herald and the Canberra Times had proven their allegations, and these were very serious allegations. They had witnesses, including former SAS soldiers and Afghan locals as well. It's a remarkable story all round, sad and distressing in the details, but a credit to the journalism of the reporters from those newspapers and to that company, to Nine, for standing by its reporting.
Yeah, a very sad story. My most remarkable story is all about house prices across capital cities. They jumped 1.2% during May. That's 3 months in a row that they're rising, and that 1.2% was almost twice what they did in the previous 2 months. Can it keep going? Not so sure about that. Maybe, although if we get an interest rate hike next week, maybe not. Last month, Sydney prices led the way, up 1.8%. Biggest gain since September 2021. You've got to pay about $50,000 more than you did in January for the average or the median dwelling in that city. Brisbane prices were a lot higher. Perth prices were a lot higher. No one thought this was going to happen. Suddenly, we're having a boom in the housing market. Remarkable.
Yeah, it is. What was your sleeper story this week, Sean?
Well, it's a bit silly. Philip Morris International, the company which makes cigarettes, reckons it could become an ESG stock. You know, they're the stocks that actually improve the world. Investors shy away from companies that harm the world, and that's mostly cigarette companies. Last year, Philip Morris sold 621 billion cigarettes worldwide, and they are the leading cause of preventable death globally. However, Philip Morris boss Jakob Olzak pointed to the fact that because the company now makes less harmful nicotine alternatives like vapes, maybe they'll become an ESG stock. I don't think so.
My sleeper story, Sean, really is not so much of a sleeper. It was, in fact, that Australia's biggest company, BHP, has underpaid 28,000 past and present employees by $430 million. A calculation error, it seems, kind of wrongly deducting annual leave from staff entitlements. It's been happening, though, for 13 years, so it's just kind of grown and grown and grown. The reason why I thought it was a bit of a sleeper story is because we're going to be hearing a lot more about this. We've already had kind of Woolies and Commonwealth Bank and McDonald's. Even the Reserve Bank has been discovered in the past to have underpaid staff. Not deliberate, of course, but this is going to be something that a lot of companies will be paying very close attention to, and now the big Australian's been caught up in it.
Yeah, incredible. I'll tell you my favourite story just very quickly. It's a government official in India who's been suspended from his job after he ordered a reservoir to be drained so he could retrieve his smartphone. Unbelievable. And he dropped it while taking a selfie. He had asked divers to jump in and try and retrieve it. It didn't work, so he brought in the diesel pumps, drained 2 million litres of water, which could have irrigated about 15,000 acres of land. He said that the water in the reservoir was unusable for irrigation, not true, and that it received permission for a senior official to drain it. Not true. Anyway, they found the phone, but guess what? It was waterlogged, didn't work.
Of course. What a way to finish off. There we go, Sean. 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Don't forget to follow us online on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is The Fast 5 by Fear and Greed.